Hi, I'm Teresa Chang.
Hi, I'm Felicia Grant Cummings.
Hi, I'm Kim Johnson with Moms Navigating Autism.
Welcome to the show. Tonight we have Serena Arvayo. She is an author of A Friend Like Zeke, a podcast host, and her podcast is Spectrum Mamas. And she is also being sued by her neighbors because her son has autism. I think all eyes all over the place are on you in your case, because I believe that if they end up winning, it's going to set a precedence all over the country.
Hi everyone, my name is Serena. We live here, my son and I. His name is Ezekiel, but he does go by Zeke for short. We live here in San Jose, California. He is about to turn 12 on Monday, so he's almost 12 years old. He is considered severely autistic or profoundly autistic. And he's also nonverbal, and he does have pretty effective ADHD that affects him almost more than his autism does, I would say, at times.
So why don't you tell us now? I know there's certain parts of it that you can't because the case is ongoing. So explain to us what you can explain about the lawsuit, and then we will take.
So I mean, it's very detailed and very descriptive, and it's public record. So if anyone looks up our case, you can see the complaint, you can see our counter complaint. Myself and my son had been living with my parents. We moved in all together back in 2021. Living with my parents was just so helpful because I am a single mom, and they're my biggest support system with my son. If I didn't have them, I don't know where I'd be. So they just helped me so much. We all lived together, and I was also helping my father pay rent. So it worked for us at the time. We had never seen the neighbor. The type of family that we are, we're always very welcoming to others. And in our previous homes, we always made sure to smile at our neighbors, introduce ourselves. If I happen to see them and we just move in, I will tell them right away that my son has autism. But we had literally never seen her ever. And the way the house is that the house is a corner house. So we only have one side neighbor, and she's to the right of the house. To the left, there's no neighbor. So technically, she is their only neighbor, or she was our only neighbor. And we had never really seen her out and about at all, or heard her in her backyard, anything. We had already been living in the home for a year when I was leaving my parents' house with my son in the back seat. We're on the way to the park, and I see a woman kind of coming around the corner, and then she's looking at me, and she looks a little bit familiar, and I thought, oh yeah, I think that might be the neighbor. And so she's approaching my car, and I don't know if it was intentional for her to speak with me, or if it was just that we had ran into each other and she wanted to take that opportunity. And I don't really remember word for word vividly, but I do know pieces of the conversation that mattered. And it did start with, hi, I'm your neighbor. And I said, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Because I had never seen her. We had never talked to her. And she said, yeah, the noises that your I don't think she even said your son, because how would she know that he's my son? I think she just said the noises that that child or that the kid is making is causing a lot of mental distress to me. And I'm trying to focus, and I can't focus, and it's causing me a lot of distress. Um, and I was very caught off guard because, I wasn't even expecting the conversation. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I apologized to her, and I said, I'm sorry, my son has autism, and my son is in the back seat. She can see him because his window's down. I said, I'm sorry, my son has, a severe form of autism, and he can't speak. So the sounds that you're hearing is my son, and those are the only sounds that he can produce. I mean, he can't speak, so I try to explain to the best of my ability in the moment, like what verbal stimming was and why he does it, and that basically it's out of his control. But I did apologize to her and I said, I'm sorry that it's bothering you. And I was really calm and cordial. I wasn't like defensive. I was just trying to have a conversation with her. And she said something along the lines of, well, isn't there a cure for that? Or she was trying to like ask what the solution would be. She's like, well, can't we like, isn't there a cure? And that's the part that like really shocked me because no one has ever asked me to my face, like, can't you just cure your child? Or like, let's fix this. Like, basically, let's make this go away. And so I just remember feeling so shocked and insulted and upset, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay calm. And at that point, my dad had came out because he heard the conversation and he was upset and but he's just kind of looking at me like, what's going on? You know, he was confused. And I said, no, there's not a cure. If there was, I probably would give it to my son so he wouldn't have to struggle and suffer every day. I mean, I don't even know what kind of question that was, but I that stood out in my mind. I remember her asking me that. And I was basically just like, well, he's just playing in the backyard, but I did still was like, I'll give you my phone number. I told her, I'll give you my phone number, and if there's times where he's getting too loud in your mind or you're really stressed out or whatever, however it's making you feel, you can text me or call me and we can try to work something out. Because at that point, I'm just trying to be cordial and I'm like, I don't understand what solution you're looking for. I'm not going to keep my son indoors 24/7. Like, I'm not going to stop him from playing in the backyard because it bothers you, because this is all during daylight hours. Um, the hours that she was referring to are like weekends or like after school. It's not like he's out playing in the backyard when it's dark or at nighttime. So that's, I think, why I was so caught off guard too, because I'm like, these are daylight hours and he's a little boy and he's just playing in the backyard. So we did reach that agreement and then she left. Um, and but then she had contacted our landlord to complain. And in that complaint, she was claiming, because it is stated in the complaint, so I can say it, she was claiming the neighborhood at large felt the same way, and the neighbors agreed with her. And it's not only her, that the entire community and the entire neighborhood was disturbed by my son, not just her. And so the really off-putting part is the way that it's stated in her complaint is completely just from left field and false. The way she's describing the actual noises that he's making as wailing, crying, no one's consoling him, no one's monitoring him, he's not being supervised. So it goes beyond the noise. She's basically claiming that I'm neglecting my child. It goes way, way beyond just the noise, because there's several other false claims about my entire family in the complaint. He's just playing in the backyard with bubbles and he's grunting and he's making his noises, and he does stim as well. Like you could see on the cover of the book, he usually stims with a sock. And that's a whole another thing because it looks funny to people. He's flopping a sock around. And when he stims, his vocalizations intensify because, he's self-soothing. So he's stimming in the backyard. And I could see to someone who doesn't know what that is, it might look concerning. We had no interaction for an entire year. And then we have this conversation. She starts reaching out to the landlord. And then there's a period of time where there's no communication between us at all. I should rewind a little bit. I moved out. I decided I am not gonna walk on eggshells. I am not gonna feel anxiety. I'm not gonna feel fear or worry every time my son is playing in the backyard because that's his happy place. He doesn't want to be indoors. He wants to be outside. He wants to play with his bubbles. And I didn't feel comfortable anymore. And so it just had happened to be perfect timing where I had a friend um, that was renting out a 2-bedroom house. And I explained to him the situation and I said, hey, can we work something out so I can get out of here because this is the situation and I'm not comfortable here anymore. And he understood and he said, of course. And it was almost like divine timing and perfect because the house that we now live in is the opposite. Like the neighbors know my son, no one has any issues. There's kids, like we moved into such a perfect place, but at that time I decided to leave. And I did feel bad because I was helping my dad pay the rent. And I told my dad, I'm like, I'm sorry. He understood, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not going to be living in constant anxiety or worry that this woman is going to be constantly complaining to us or to our landlord. I just didn't like the feeling. We still continued visiting my parents' house because those are his grandparents. And I still allowed him to play in the backyard because those are his grandparents. So even though we moved out, she still had an issue because we were still coming around. And from the time that complaint happened to when the lawsuit was filed, it was more than a year. And we hadn't heard anything. It was radio silence. There was no contact at all. And so it was this past December of 2023, a week before Christmas, when we found out that there was a lawsuit filed against us in court. When I read that lawsuit, it was just the most offensive thing I've ever read because it's not just about the sounds that he's making. Or if she were to sue just myself and my father about whatever she wanted, that's fine. But she's suing my child. He's in the lawsuit as a defendant, and he's listed as a John Doe. And so I couldn't even grasp the fact that someone could sue a disabled child, attack us, take it out on us, the adults, fine. But my son has nothing to do with you. He's innocent. He can't even cognitively comprehend to that level. It's not by choice. He can't control it. So I think that was the hardest thing for our family to sit there and read that she's claiming that he's a nuisance to the entire community, that the value of her home has gone down, and that she's requesting a jury. She's demanding a jury. And there's also a restraining order against all of us, myself, my son, and my son has never even stepped foot in her driveway. So I think it was just so odd and strange, and it goes beyond the noise. And I think that's what people are having a hard time understanding when you read her complaint, is that when you really step back, it is discrimination and it is harassment. And I do feel that she just wanted my parents evicted and she wanted us gone. And I feel like it's clear as day when you read the lawsuit. Um, and I really lost hope in that moment for humanity. I was like, we don't belong anywhere. We don't belong here. where do we go? What do we do? Do I have to move to the middle of nowhere on to sit on acres of land with nobody around just to live, just so my son could be himself? Like, what do I do? That was my instinct. That's what I told my parents. I said, let's just go. Let's get out of here. And then I stepped back and I said, no, we belong here and we shouldn't have to uproot our whole lives to make everybody else comfortable. And it took a lot for me to not dwell in this dark place of that feeling because I cried for days. I didn't want to get out of bed. It really took over me, and it took so much for me to pull myself out of that to recognize what I was being called to do. And I realized that this is bigger than my son. This is bigger than me. This is about your kids too. This is
Right.
about all of our children. This is about the entire community. If I don't say something, we're all those people, all those ignorant people are going to win because they don't want to see us. They want us to lock our kids away. They want to sweep it under the rug and act like we don't exist and like our kids don't exist and they don't have a place here. And so it took a lot um of prayer. Um
Amen.
we thankfully my family, my mom has always raised me to come together and pray, and our faith is very strong. And I truly feel like that's what woke up this beast in me of fighting back. It is very difficult, especially speaking publicly about it, because we are facing more judgment and harassment, and there's people that are, buying into the other side, and that's fine because the outpour of support that we received is just incredible. But I think that, and I hope that this person is humbled through this. I hope that it teaches other people to be humbled and just more compassionate. And it's just been seriously indescribable of the reach that it's made, and how our story has been shared. And I'm
all around
just
the world.
so, yeah,
I've
I
seen some
mean,
TikTok things to it too in support of you, and there were some
Yeah.
people speaking on there I saw.
it's just amazing. I think this really showed me, like, it gave me hope. Like, people do care. There's people that are going through it. I'm not alone. There's so many other moms and families that have messaged me like, hey, we're going through this right now with our neighbor, or we're dealing with this situation. And I see all the messages, and it's like an army of other moms that are standing up and saying, my child is nonverbal too. My child is autistic too, and we get stares, and it's
It's not
Yeah,
just them, it's people with a heart and
yeah,
anybody, not even with special needs, that support you. These other
right.
people are like bullies, is what they
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
And
I
I get
had
it's
very
to,
passionate, sorry. I feel you.
yeah,
So
no,
y-
it
you're
was,
awesome.
I didn't think that I wanted to be quiet about it, to be honest. I didn't want to share it, because I think in my mind that it made it real, and I didn't want to grasp that it was real. I think I was protecting myself because I kept telling myself, this is not happening to us. It's happening, this is not real. And then we had the opportunity to go on the news and to share it. And I my natural self, because I do struggle with social anxiety and I don't like um that level of attention. It makes me uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. So my natural reaction was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I knew the risk too is putting our business out there. People start Googling me, people start looking at my LinkedIn profile, and it's just very intrusive. But I had to put all that aside and realize, like, It's about the impact. And we were presented that opportunity for a reason. It's
So let
just,
me ask you, in this lawsuit, what exactly was she suing other than a nuisance and the thing she listed? They're suing for monetary?
Yeah.
yeah. So she's also, I think, negligence. That's the claim that I'm, that she put in the complaint that he's being left unattended, um, in the backyard. So that was a part that she was saying he wasn't being supervised, the nuisance. And yeah, ultimately, at the end of the complaint, she is seeking monetary damages.
Okay, so here's the thing. To me, if I saw my neighbor neglecting their child and leaving them out, and if I see a dog being left out at -5 degrees, you call the Humane Society, and you report that to help the
Yeah,
dog,
that's
right?
what I don't understand. There's no complaints,
If
there's no
if
complaints
a
filed,
child
right?
being left outside, like she says, neglected, um, beaten, whatever, you call in New York, it's
Child
CPS,
protective, so yeah,
Child
CPS.
Protective Services. You don't sue for monetary damages.
So have the police ever been to your home for complaints of any, because you said all the neighbors are on board saying a lot of the neighbors saying the same thing. Not one complaint from one neighbor about so how do they really even care if it's a child? Who cares about money in a lawsuit? If they really wanted to do that, that's later down the road. But what about the child in that moment?
Right, right. You don't sue for the monetary damages because the child is being left. You call Child Protective Services.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
And
the monetary damages is coming from, she's claiming that it's a personal injury because it's causing her emotional distress, the sounds. But he has never physically damaged any of her property. He's never, I mean, from what I, know that you have to be causing physical damage to property or be physically assaulting people or doing things that are really outrageous. And that's another thing, is that the police had never been to my parents' house for any reason, even for the claim of the wild, rambunctious parties. My mom is almost 70 years old, and we do have a big family, and we do get together for barbecues, or
Wow, that's what you have a
you
home for.
know, there's kids in our family, and we get together at my mom's and we'll have dinner. That is not a party. Um, and there is no amplified music. If there was, as it claims, at early amplified music into the early morning hours, there would be police reports. There would be police at our door saying, "Hey, you guys got to quiet it down." That has never happened because they don't exist. We all leave by like 9 p.m. We all go back home. I think it's just a part of her trying to single us
Establish
out,
something, yeah.
trying to intimidate us so that we don't have our family over anymore. And what I don't understand is that, especially since we moved out, there's days where we don't even go over there at all. So there's days where it's completely quiet at my parents' house. We're not there. And she still chooses to do this. So what does that tell you?
I have a question too. Have you ever heard from any other neighbors in the neighborhood? I know she claims in her documentation, but has your family ever heard from any other neighbors or community members
So that could be
No,
that they
hearsay in the
that they
documents,
had an
right?
issue or were concerned?
no. So we did reach out to the neighbor, one of the other neighbors that are technically not next to us, but we do share the same street. My dad actually had a conversation and said, "Hey, this is my grandson, this is his condition." And we were met with understanding of that. Now, when the news, they never reached out to us or our landlord to say, "Hey, this is a problem," anything like that. But the news did go to interview them and did ask them, hey, is it loud? I don't know exactly specifically the questions that were asked, but their response was, yes, we do hear him. Yes, it can get loud at times, but we just shut our windows or doors, as in it's not a problem. And they did say, you know, they wouldn't go to the level of this, but that wasn't mentioned. So I think what's hard to deal with is that there's a little bit of a misunderstanding there. When people heard the news story, they took that as a complaint, which really wasn't.
Well, the
Because
news also twists it.
yeah, so I mean that they do have, you know, that's the news too. And also this is, you know, this is a court situation where it is ultimately up to the judge or the jury to make a decision. It can't, you know, be one-sided, and I understand that. You know, I understand that they're going to have to examine everything, but I just get frustrated because I know we know our story, we know our situation, but no one has reached out to us personally, came knocking on our door saying, "Hey, like, what's going on? This is too loud." We haven't heard anything at all from anyone else. And that's a frustrating part too, is I feel like it didn't need to come to this, and it reached this level so quick with no real purpose. I mean, if she were to sit down with us and get to know us, I feel like she would actually like our family. Like my dad before would, you know, be neighborly, and if her garbage was left out, he would make it a point to bring her cans in for her. And so I feel like even though we never saw her and there was no communication, my dad still made the effort to be neighborly and be kind and say, you know, out of consideration and to be courteous, I'm going to grab your trash can. So little things like that, we have always been that type of family to show consideration. And with my son, it's not something he can control. It's not like we're purposely like, oh, let me purposely annoy you with my disabled child at all hours of the day and night, or we're going to have these parties. It's just really, really outrageous. In this situation, I am thankful that he has no idea what's going on. He has no idea the ugliness of the world and the judgment of the world. I'm taking that on for him. But I'm very
It's like
thankful.
almost like a blessing in a way, because
Yeah.
my son doesn't understand they're making fun or they're saying things, or they don't
Yeah.
understand.
Mhm.
He doesn't understand heartbreak or time or
Yeah. They
these
just,
things. I mean,
they're
not
so
that I'm saying
innocent
blessed for that, but at
minded.
least
Yeah.
he's protected from that.
Thank you for being on the show, Serena.
Thank you so much for your time. It
Thank you,
was so
Serena.
lovely meeting all of you.
We'd like to thank Altice for allowing us to use this platform to share our views as moms. Thank you.
And we want to remind everybody that we are mothers. We're not professionals. We're sharing our experiences so that we can help you with your autism child.
Don't forget to watch us on social media. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe.